if he can sit there with a person from, I think it's at Gold Coast.
Gold Coast, yeah.
The coast. What the coast is? The coast, Ethiopia, and Nigeria. He's sitting there with Africans of these other countries. What was the difference between the Bantu?
What's good, y'all? It's the Demouchets REACT, and we're back with another video. Who we got today, C?
Today we're back with another American reaction.
Yes, yes.
Super excited about this video, guys. If you're new to us
and we're new to you,
make sure you scroll down,
hit that subscribe button,
and turn on the post notification bell
because we're on the road to 100K.
And we cannot get there without you guys, all right? Join the family. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
Welcome to our forum discussion on the roots of prejudice. All four participants in today's discussion are high school students from Africa. Let me introduce them to you now. First, from the Gold Coast is 18-year-old Alfred Bannerman. We call him Nini. It all started, Nini tells us, when he was born. He looked like a little old man. And Nini is a term of respect for an old man. We still call him Nini, and he considers it a term of respect. From Nigeria, Mohamedou Liman, 18 years old. From the Union of South Africa, Dix Lobjer. Dix, well, you should see him do the rock and roll. From Ethiopia, 17-year-old Nebiet Tafari. It was Nebiet's suggestion that we start this discussion with a prayer in case there should be violence later. What you heard was Nebiet from Ethiopia giving a prayer in the Ge'ez language. He's a Cop by religion, Amhara by race, Hebrew in origin, and an African since he's been to America. How should we start this discussion on prejudice? Would it be unfair to ask each of you what your own prejudices are? How about you, Nebi?
Actually, I am prejudiced against the Italians, and I have been prejudiced against the Mohammedans. Since I arrived here, I have developed some new prejudices, and I never felt that I was a Negro till I came to this country.
Why?
Because my tutor in the monastery told me that I was not a Negro, but I was a sunburned Hebrew.
Okay, babe, hold on.
You mentioned that.
Wait a minute. The host said something about America, and then he's saying something about until he came to this country. I gotta go back a little bit to see so I don't miss nothing. Hold on.
Yeah, this is gonna be a long one, y'all. I think what happened is they said that they are in America now, and these are the people from the, you know what I'm saying, the locations.
Yeah,
so.
we don't want to get them wrong, but
yeah,
let's restart a little bit.
Well, you should see him do the rock and roll. From Ethiopia, 17-year-old Nebiet Tafari. It was Nebiet's suggestion that we start this discussion with a prayer in case there should be violence later. What you heard was Nebiet from Ethiopia giving a prayer in the Ge'ez language. He's a Cop by religion, Amhara by race, Hebrew in origin, and an African since he's been to America. How should we start this discussion on prejudice? Would it be unfair to ask each of you what your own prejudices are? How about you, Nebi?
Actually, I am prejudiced against the Italians, and I have been prejudiced against the Mohammedans. Since I arrived here, I have developed some new prejudices, and I never felt that I was a Negro till I came to this country.
Why?
Because my tutor in the monastery told me that I was not a Negro, but I was a sunburned Hebrew.
You mentioned that you have prejudices against Mohammedans. I am a Mohammedan, and I have prejudices against Christians too in southern Nigeria.
You said you have prejudices against Christians in southern Nigeria. Is that particularly because they are Christians? I'm a Christian myself, but I have no prejudice against Mohammedans. I rather prejudice against whites.
But why have you got prejudice against the whites in the Gold Coast?
I think it's sort of this kind. At first, I was not prejudiced against whites anyway. I was prejudiced against fellow Africans because I had some opportunities which some of the Africans didn't get. I was brought up in a city. I lived the Western way. I dressed the Western style, and I did everything Western. And so I was looking down upon fellow Africans who live in the villages, in the rural areas. As I developed, I started getting some political ideas. Especially, I'm very much interested in the problem in South Africa. We hear quite often about how the blacks are treated there, how everything goes on there. And for instance, everybody knows that we get good friendship and peace in the world through games like the Olympic Games and those kinds of games. But everybody knows that the team from the Union of South Africa has not got a single African, which means the people in South Africa think of themselves as superior beings. And this thing gives me more ideas just to be prejudiced and discriminate against the whites. And so I'd like you to explain to me some of the policies of the apartheid system and the basic idea to the logical conclusion.
Well,
everybody at each other's neck already.
Yeah,
obviously
in a
on this panel.
respectful way.
I mean, they talking about. And I see why he made his prayer in Geese language. Because I ain't know this about to bark at each other.
At high schoolers.
I thought this was about to be
I think this
just
is a debate.
A debate, yeah. But I just thought it's gonna be like a conversation about life with everyone else's experience.
Right.
They talking about their personal.
Yeah. Oh my God. He like, well, you say you prejudice against it. I'm that.
Yeah, I'm that guy you mad at.
And the other one say, well, I'm that. And then the other one say, well, why that?
Yeah, I didn't know I was a Negro. Wait, what? You didn't? Yeah, boy. Like.
Ooh. Okay, so we're still not clear on like the location of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like we thought that this was somewhere in Africa, but he said that
until he made it to America.
He never felt like a Negro until he came to America. Mm-hmm. So this is 1956.
Okay.
And if this is 1956 in America, excuse us guys if we're getting the location wrong. It's just what we're hearing. But 1956 in America, civil rights laws didn't even pass yet. So yeah.
In South Africa, one must realize this fact, overseas people especially, and that is that this is the first case in history that a white nation has settled itself in a black country. In the whole of Africa, there are 190 million Africans, 190 million Negroes.
Yes.
And in Southern Africa, there are almost 3 million white people. That means less than 3%. Now, in South Africa itself, the blacks outnumber the whites there by 4 to 1. In the States here, they outnumber
they're in America.
White people outnumber the Negroes 8 to 1. For that reason, and for the reason, and for this fact, that one cannot ever draw a parallel line between the Negroes in South Africa and the Negroes in the States. The Negroes in...
Before he go on, when we started like really digging into South African culture and the people groups, on camera and off camera, it was like a warped reality to us. Because it's like the opposite of what we have here, there. And also, we are like this with our supporters, right?
Facts.
And the fact that we have people that we talk to on a regular basis. I can't really say we not a regular basis, but y'all know. Like, we have people in all of the different South African groups. Like, we're in communication with all of these people, so we hear different things, and it's always to get us to understand their climate better when it comes to the people groups. And it's like, when we're reading it, it's like it's a warped reality because we deal with the complete opposite, and we don't have as many. I can't really say that because the U.S. is so big, but it's like almost like a warped reality to us.
Yeah.
So when he said, like it's flip.
The parallel.
States are far above the Negroes in South Africa as far as education and civilization goes. Now, the government's policy of apartheid, that policy, the guiding principle of this policy is to help the non-whites in South Africa to self-realization in their own territories and within their own communities so that they can govern themselves. Gradually, they'll be giving more and more power to govern themselves. Now, that's what the guiding principle is, and that's what the white man in South Africa is doing.
Let me make this point clear. You say they want the Africans to develop themselves. And so will you allow the Africans to get their own governments and their own representations? Or will you like to give them the rules and the laws by yourselves?
No,
we force them and do everything.
We're not going to force them to do anything.
No, the point is, I know that in South Africa you have a government, and there is not a single African in the government. there are 9 million Africans as against 2 million whites. Why is it that there is not a single African in the government of South Africa?
Well, there are 9 representatives for the...
But I mean, how can 9 Englishmen or 9 Europeans represent?
But I feel like it's so diverse these days. Like, so this is 1956 though.
Well, we can't really speak for South Africa. I
Okay,
haven't looked into their government.
That is true.
I've only looked into like the people, but
yeah, yeah, you're right.
9 million Africans. How can they know their problems and their ideas? These people are Africans. You believe in separateness. The Africans separate and the whites separate. Well, how then can it happen that you get whites representing Africans and ideas since they are separate?
I don't think that is fair either. Since the people in the House of Representatives, do you call it that?
That's right.
They are supported by the taxes paid by the natives, aren't they?
No, just a minute. There, you've gone altogether wrong. If South Africa was to subsist on the taxes that the Bantu in South Africa pay, then South Africa would drop just like that.
Then,
okay.
On what do they support? What supports them?
What?
The House of Representatives or the people in the government?
That's the 2.5 million white people that are supporting themselves and the overwhelming.
So he's basically saying that at that time of living, their own finances was benefiting their own communities, their own.
That's what he's saying. But I mean, the things that we have heard and not heard, but the things that our South African supporters on all sides contradicts what he's saying now. But again, I kind of don't want to go there.
Yeah, me, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna make some comments.
Go there.
I'm gonna talk about some stuff, and I'm gonna try to get a little involved too. Yeah. But I'm gonna be more in the audience with this one.
I mean,
Yeah, he said, "Hold on now." Well, you can't say that. But I thought
apartheid is still going on during this time.
Yeah.
So
just to make another level of understanding come into play. So if apartheid is still going on, and my brother said that y'all are being supported by the taxes of the people
of just the 2.5 million white people.
Right. So, but you also got to think about it. When apartheid was happening around this time, the black people, they wasn't in, like, the working was very low for them. They wasn't.
They had to move out their homes. Their jobs were gone.
Let's see what he say. Let's see what he say.
Black population, 12 million black people. It's those 2.5 million to 3 million white people that are supporting the lot.
Could you just explain how they are able to support themselves and how they are able to support?
You mean the white people?
Yeah, and how they are able to conduct this development without the assistance of the natives?
Because they've got the Western idea of working, and they've developed that country.
Oh, I see. They've developed that country through the Africans working. I know that the whites in South Africa went down there because of wealth. It was through the gold rush and all those things that happened that, I mean, we got white men in South Africa. And so they went down there purposely to use the Africans as tools for their own benefit. Isn't that?
When the white men went down there, they never even knew a black man existed down there. When the white man landed at the bottom of the Cape in 1652, the black people in South Africa hadn't even moved over the northern boundary of the Union of South Africa.
Yes. I know these people would like to get these sociological ideas just to get around the question. So far as I know, the people in South Africa are a nomadic tribe by career or by profession. They are headsmen who move with their cattle all around the belt. Nowadays, even in the olden days. Okay. It might happen that they were living down south, but because of their profession, they happened to live up north. Because in those days, there were warring tribes which were waging wars against each other. And so you cannot say that the land is yours. Everybody knows that Africa is for Africans. And when we think of Africans, we think of blacks. That's how I know. Well,
look here. Just to give you a short
policy, and you are using the policy of aggressors that the land, the earth belongs to everybody, and the one that is powerful rules the part of the world which is owned by the others. That's the policy that aggressors use.
You know who are the aggressors? It's the African National Congress in Africa. They are the aggressors.
No, how can there be?
If the Africans in Africa would stop being so militant and would rather get down and help and build up South Africa and build up Africa, the problem would cease almost immediately.
Okay, let me ask you this thing.
That was harsh.
That was harsh.
That was harsh. For him to say that was like he even. Oh gosh! Wow, they ain't screaming yet.
I don't want this video to be about apartheid. Y'all, I am drained. I am more drained than I was as a person in elementary school, listening to the things that my people in America had to go through. Listening to stories from my grandparents with the lynchings and everything. I am drained, and it's been almost 30 years since it's ended. I don't want this entire conversation to be about this.
So far, this is what they're dropping the landmark. This is what they're talking about. But there's always more to learn. You know what I'm saying?
It is.
And then there's always more to learn because you always gonna have so many perspective of people going through and seeing things happening the way they happen. Like how the young men are speaking on this panel. One saying that y'all didn't do anything on this land to help the 12 million of these white. I think it was like 12 million of the white men build.
No, the blacks.
The blacks.
That was 12.
Yeah, y'all ain't doing anything to help build, and the brothers are like, yo, we was warring against each other all over this place.
Yeah, he tried to tell them about how it was before they got there.
Right. So we've been foot on ground since the time it started. That before you even arrived. Basically, is what he's trying to say.
Right. Definitely. I feel like I'm just tired of talking about the bad stuff. I'm so tired. I don't want to get nobody worked up. But
this is gonna definitely shake some feathers.
I know.
You shake the tree hard enough, something falls from it. That's it.
But I feel like I have to commend them for high schoolers, and then they're in America talking about this. During the time that we was dealing with our own stuff, I commend them for being able to speak their views in an eloquent way, and it sounds like a little, it don't sound too aggressive.
Yeah, but
it doesn't sound too hostile. It sounds like they're debating.
They just gotta laugh it off.
Nobody laugh at me.
My man chuckled. He did a small chuckle. He's like, hey, let me. Everybody got their own.
If they can come down and help, the problem will cease. The point is, how can they help if you get 9 million Africans and 3 million Europeans? And you get only 9 Europeans representing the interests of these Africans.
Yeah.
Do you believe, let me ask you this personal question. Do you believe, according to your apartheid policy, in getting 2 South Africas, one South Africa for the Africans and one South Africa for this thing, with 2 different colonial policies and 2 different foreign policies? No. If you don't, give me the answer.
Well, I wouldn't be able to give you the definite answer right now.
Why? You believe in separateness. And why don't you believe in getting the Africans separate, having their own government and everything, thereby creating 2 union of South Africas? That's the point. But so far as you believe in apartheid, it means you believe in separateness. Then keep the Africans separate with their own governments, with their own money, with their own everything, and keep the white separate.
Excuse me, I'll just come in there. Okay. He said that if Africans would just calm down and then cooperate with them, the land will achieve peacefulness. Right.
Imagine.
How'd that go, though?
Imagine somebody. Okay, I'm doing it in simpler terms. All right. I'm gonna do it in simpler terms.
I got a simpler term.
What? Imagine you own your home, right?
Yeah.
You bought your home. You pay taxes. We pay taxes in the United States. Like even if we buy a home, it's not like y'all buy your home and the home is yours. We wish. Yeah. Anyway, imagine like, there was a recent HOA case.
Okay.
A woman paid off her house. She didn't know that her house was in the HOA. Like years later, the house was governed by a HOA. So she wasn't paying HOA fees. They sold her house. And she had to move out. She didn't know that they sold her house until the seller said, I bought your house in an auction. When are you moving? And she like, what are you talking about?
Joke, bro. Them HOAs is no
I bought my house out. I paid my house.
All that money.
She had to move out. Baby. This is basically what it was. I'm so glad I wasn't living during all this stuff. Lord, I pray that we don't deal with nothing like this.
Yeah, that's harsh.
I will be the Harriet Tubman.
Oh, gosh.
Do you mean that the Africans are the people who are really the aggressors against you? You are not really aggressive towards Africans. I mean...
Of course not. The general attitude in South Africa, and I come from a country, I know, every summer that we have, every holiday at least that I have, I go and spend on the farms, and I live amongst these natives. I really get to know what they look and what they are like. The general attitude of the white people in South Africa is sympathetic towards the black people. They regard themselves as the trustees of the black people.
Why shouldn't they be sympathetic? The point is, I always stress this fact that there are 9 million Africans and 3 million whites.
Exactly. So
if you come to South Africa, there are only 43 Africans with university degrees who are graduates. If you come to the Gold Coast, you have thousands of them. Gold Coast is a black colony, just like South Africa. But we have been able to develop everything, which shows the capability of the African to do anything itself. But we have been able to get all these ideas through the mixture of Western ideas. Actually, we couldn't develop on our own, until we got British help. And since we got the help, we have been able to do everything ourselves. If you go down to South Africa and help the Africans with your ideas, getting, free mixture of ideas, everything will be okay. But the point is, you use the Africans as tools. You tell them that don't be in this city after 9 o'clock, don't wear this thing, don't do this thing, don't go to America, and the Africans don't go any part apart. Anywhere at all outside the South African Union.
You know, the white people in South Africa aren't allowed in the black areas either after dark.
It's because you created this situation. Why don't get free mixture? You look down on the Africans. That's the point. Am I quite clear? Because you said you believe in separateness, and I want you to come down to this point. You have not answered my question.
Just let me interfere. What's the fundamental cause of all this discrimination in South Africa? The one fundamental cause.
Firstly, because the Bantu in South Africa is not as educated and as highly civilized.
And therefore?
Yes.
Yeah, and therefore
we've got to live with them together in that land. Remember that.
You mean
you people want us to give them equal franchise rights. If we give them equal franchise rights within hardly any time whatsoever, the white man in South Africa will have absolutely no say in anything.
But you have been
in this case, you don't have any choice. Suppose now you think that if the society of the white and the society of the blacks is mixed, it will be quite dangerous for you because these people are not as civilized as the white. Exactly. Suppose these people are kept in separation, and you educate them, and the government, I think, believes within the 20 years they will be of the same standard as the white. And this means that you are giving them help mechanically. And unless you mix with them, if they are as good as you, then they will say, get away, who cares for you?
Yeah.
Okay. I have to remember at this time they were still kids. High schoolers, but still kids.
Yeah, high schoolers.
But if he can sit there with a person from, I think it's at Gold Coast.
Gold Coast, yeah.
The coast. One of the coasts. The coast, Ethiopia, and Nigeria. He's sitting there with Africans of these other countries. What was the difference between the Bantu? Why was there a difference?
I think he's saying the Bantu wasn't educated.
That's what he said.
Like how they were educated. So he said they couldn't live among them. But my man speaking about it, and again, they talk about separation and all this stuff, but he's sitting amongst black men.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like...
It's like he's describing them as if they were savages. That's what he's saying. Like, again, back to the house. Somebody come up in my house and take my house away from me and then say, you get it back whenever.
Whenever.
What?
I don't know how that's supposed to happen.
Yeah, I'm like a savage then. Yes, I
will. It makes sense. You will be upset. They will be upset.
Oh, my God. Oh.
Just realize the fact that they will do so because you were not exchanging ideas for developing these people in terms of friendship.
But that's exactly what we're doing.
No.
The black man and the white man in South Africa are working together.
No.
There's constant contact between the ministers.
But you got to think about what he said. He said if we gave them that rightful way to have what we have, we wouldn't have no say-so. But then he backed door and said that, but we are working together with the black man. But then you got to ask yourself who has the say-so and who don't.
Yeah.
So as long as
say-so.
Who has the ultimate say-so? If someone has, like, if it's a friendship and y'all educating one another, then y'all can communicate and mix together like they're trying to, get him to understand. But if there's no mixture and one person has the say-so over all things, then it's like, it's really no mixture. You still...
It's like...
It's not that.
And the Bantu.
No, but how can 9 white men get the interest of 9 million Africans? That's the point. If you get the Africans there in the government themselves,
it's not just
they
9.
Can be able.
It's not just 9 men, and it's not The 9 million black people aren't just sitting there and waiting for the government to do something for them. They're governing themselves. They got local governments already.
Yes.
And they're getting more and more local government.
Okay, answer this question for me. I was asking you a personal question, if you don't mind. The point is, you believe in separateness.
Yes,
you believe that if you keep the Africans separate, entirely separate, and the whites entirely separate, you can be able to live in South Africa?
Look, you mustn't take this idea of separateness or apartheid too literal. It doesn't mean that's fenced around and blacks live there and whites live there.
That's how it is.
Oh, no,
if you go to South Africa, tell me this thing. You come here.
Nah, so we've seen some videos that our lovely family has sent us, and basically that's exactly what it was. They was kicked out.
Out of their own homes, right?
And they need a passport to go back to their own.
Oh yeah.
To their own land. Like, how you give someone a passport to a place they once lived?
In their own country.
Like, how that's stomaching. Like, bro, you gotta. Know what I'm saying? Like.
Africans are not allowed to be in Johannesburg after 9 o'clock. Am I quite clear? Is it true?
No, it's not.
Is it not true?
In Johannesburg, after dark,
yes,
it's just those hooligans that walk around there. After dark, any self-respecting Bantu or white person won't venture out of doors.
Okay. Come to this point.
I
If you go to the railway station,
are not the same as you think of them.
That's crazy.
This 1956. Yes. I'm thinking about, the first thing I thought about is, what if I want to go on a date? I can't go out my house at 9 o'clock.
Because someone was labeled as a savage. And if you fit the description of a savage, then you too don't go into no sundown city.
Oh, yeah. We did have sundown cities.
I mean, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, we had sundown cities.
When the sun come down, you can't step outside into the city no more.
Yeah.
Everybody else can come outside who lives there.
Well, no, but our sundown cities were, the blacks didn't necessarily live in those areas.
I mean,
they weren't allowed.
They wasn't allowed, but I mean, it's the same thing.
They should have had somebody up there from the USA. I mean, they're going through the same thing during this time.
Yeah.
I've been in contact with them all the time since I've grown up. I know what they're like.
But how far does the government
disagreeing.
make use of those who are educated, for example?
They're going back to help educate and uplift their people.
No, they are not going back. The point is, you try to educate these Africans to go back and help their people.
Exactly.
But that is where I tell you that there are only 43 Africans with university degrees. How can these 43 Africans go back with their Western ways and Western everything to this African society and help the people? The people will not understand them because you are turning back to primitivism in South Africa. And so when these people go down to the Africans don't, as it were, get them nicely.
You're always talking about you can't learn to swim unless you get into the water.
Yeah.
Well, you can't start educating them unless you send those that are educated back to
you ought to start educating them, for the 300 years that, South Africa has existed. We have been in the...
So that wasn't the point, though. That wasn't the point. The point wasn't to take them to educate them or misinform them and then educate them and then send them back to educate their own. That was another point.
I just want to say thank you to all of our ancestors for everything that y'all have done for us.
Not the point at all.
Because Sierra could not live during this time.
He said, you cannot get in the water and learn to swim until you're pushed in the water. Well, it was pushed, and a lot of people drowned. And they wasn't coming back up to say, hey, you guys, look what I learned.
Yeah, I mean...
Unless they were swimming in the opposite direction.
Western contact for only 100 years. But if you come to the Gogos now, we are able to do everything ourselves. We are, at present, I'm sitting down equally with you.
You can't, it's absolutely unrealistic and stupid to compare South Africa with the Gold Coast. Yes. There's absolutely no comparison whatsoever.
But basically we are all Africans.
Just let me finish.
Oh, no. Go on.
In South Africa, at least in the Gold Coast, there has never been enough white men there to constitute the nationhood. If the Gold Coasters at any time wanted to drive him out, and they drove him out, those white men have got England for their own land.
The only thing I know is, according to the partition of Africa and the scramble for Africa in 1884, all the white men came to Africa and they settled at the places which suit them best, according to health. If you go to South Africa, the climate is Mediterranean in certain places, so you see white men there. If you go to East Africa, it is tropical. But because of the highlands, it's relatively cooler. And so you see white men there. That's why you get the mama in East Africa. In the Gold Coast, it is jungle. mosquitoes and everything. And so the white men don't like to live in the Gold Coast. That's natural.
And Nini, and excuse me, Navy, and Dix, I want to ask you this. Dix just said that there weren't enough white men in the Gold Coast. Would your point of view be that believing in separateness, you've kept yourself so separated from the white men in the Gold Coast that maybe your standard of living has...
No, ma'am. We were just keeping, side by side with them. I tell you at first that if you come to the Gold Coast, through the contact with the whites, we have been able to develop. We can never develop on our own. That's the point. But we got Western ways and Western ideas and Western help. That's why we are, as equal to the whites now.
I suppose it's a different case with...
Okay, so he acknowledged that they couldn't develop on their own in their land.
Which he said plenty of times.
Yeah, and he said it about 3 times now.
Yeah, he did.
He's acknowledging that the British helped them, but the British didn't move there and say, y'all gonna stay here, we gonna develop this land and we'll let y'all know when y'all can come back in.
Yeah, it wasn't a separateness.
Yeah, it
wasn't a separateness, right?
I don't know if y'all was on the live, y'all heard us say that South Africa, like, the second highest population on our channel is South Africans. Y'all know we got love by South Africans, all of y'all. But it has been the hardest country to react to because sometimes when we turn off our videos, we're drained.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it's like,
real.
Dang, like, this is real. Like, this wasn't that long ago. Like, why y'all do this to us?
Countries in West Africa. You see, we in West Africa, we were brought under the British rule. But you can't compare that with South Africa because the white went there to live and not to bring these people to a higher standard of living and to educate them and bring and allow them to realize...
I'm going to rewind him because I feel like he was saying something.
With countries in West Africa. You see, we in West Africa, we were brought under the British rule. But you can't compare that with South Africa because the white went there to live and not to bring these people to a higher standard of living and to educate them and bring and allow them to realize the full significance.
Yeah, that go back to what you just said. The British didn't go there to separate them and say, hey, we're going to do this and bum. But when the whites went to South Africa, as we all seen, they was all pushed to the coasts. You know what I'm saying? Saying you will have to live like this and we're going to come and settle in and do what we want to do. So I feel like whenever, where is he from?
Nigeria.
No, not him, the other gentleman, the white guy.
South Africa.
He's from South Africa. So whenever he speaks about South Africa and say that we built it and we did this in the third, that's because y'all pushed everyone out and y'all started remodeling and doing things for...
Basically overthrew their government that they had, if they had a government at that time.
If they had one. Yeah. So, yeah, it kind of go back to what you was just saying.
Yeah, like I understand exactly what he's saying. I just...
I bet that's difficult, though, man. That's difficult times.
It is very difficult. It is difficult. And I just want to say this comment because one of, I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
I'm going to leave it to them.
All right, let's continue.
Africans of
But
civilization.
the Africans, they are the citizens. If they are citizens, why deny them these rights?
We're not denying them the rights.
Let me ask Mohamedou another question. You said at the beginning that you were Mohammedan, that Nini was Christian, that you had some prejudices against Christians.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a fairly frank question.
Oh, yeah, so this is where the tables are turning.
Yes.
See what she did?
I hope they get off the subject.
See what she did? She said she the DJ, so she about to scratch the board a little bit. Let's see where she go with this.
Do you have any sense that Nini from the Gold Coast is less purely African than you are?
Yeah, I often feel that.
Why?
You see, we in Nigeria, and now part of Nigeria, northern Nigeria, we often feel that Africa is for Muslims, not for Christians. It's meant for Muslims. And our social life is entirely different from the Western ways. We are totally opposed to it because it sort of try to disassociate our religious principles.
We were talking a moment ago about discrimination between white and black. Suppose Nini comes to visit you in Nigeria. Would he be discriminated against in any way?
I suppose so, simply because, for one reason. You see, we eat in a bowl. We in my home, we put a big bowl down, and you have about 3 or 4 people putting their hands all at the same time into the bowl.
There is an
And,
element of competition.
and you see, we don't allow Christians to interfere. We don't allow Christians to put their hands inside. You see, it's one of our religious doctrines. We don't allow, we're not supposed to eat with Christians in the same bowl unless we're obligated to. And so that's one of the things which we will...
On this question of religion, I'd like to ask you one more thing. I've heard it said recently that Islam is gaining rapidly in Africa and Christian influence is declining. Is that true?
I wouldn't say definitely it is not true, but to some extent it is. You see, there are 2 sides to it. We have the Ahmadiyya movement in Nigeria. They come from Pakistan, and I think it originated about 1885. I don't know.
I wonder if Nini would agree with you that Christianity is on the way.
I disagree with him. The point is, Muslim teaches purely African, principles. That's the case. They had the Mohammedan influence in Africa, around about West Africa, in about 1,000 years ago. About some few centuries ago. But Christianity came down in Africa about 200 years ago. And through Christian influence, we are able to adopt Western ways of life and Western everything. And so more people like to adopt Christianity, whereby they try to become Western. Because most of the...
So, yeah, she definitely turned the tables on us, y'all.
Yeah, I'm not saying nothing about nothing.
Well, I'm going to speak about it. He said
Go
that
ahead.
they have obtained a Christianity through the Western ways.
Mm-hmm.
And in Africa, they had a concrete way of living, which was Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why he's rejecting the brother about being able to live among the Muslims and eat with them is because they feel like, I'm thinking, his ways is Western.
Yeah.
You understand?
I gotta talk. No, I'm gonna say this though. It's interesting how many years ago is this?
This is
All these
1956.
years later.
Yeah.
All these years later, how the religious climate has changed in Nigeria.
So true. So true.
It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how. How were they able to do it?
What was that breaking point like?
Yeah.
When that mixture happened?
Because this was just 1956. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. About 60 years ago.
And we see the demographics between what
67.
religion, capacity lives in what locations, and they still amongst each other. They have some that's even living amongst each other. So.
Oh, and I asked this question in one of our Nigerian reactions, and I asked the question, and I asked the question in Nigeria, how welcoming is people of other religions?
You sure
and yes, and
wow.
our faithful, loyal supporters, y'all
bar,
help us
man.
so much. We truly appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all say that y'all do not discriminate, so y'all can eat in each other bowls now, guys. I think.
Hey, you funny.
Missionaries who come down there are Americans or Englishmen. And people like to follow the style because of singing and everything, because African likes music. So anytime
you wouldn't say a person joins a religion simply because he finds it very easy or because he finds that he can conform his social customs to it.
No.
You follow it because you understand that it is a true religion and your spiritual understandings agree with it.
No, what I'm trying to say is, I'm not saying that Western ideas are best with the Africans. I believe in African getting everything African. But the point is, we know and everybody knows that if you get some things African, they are sometimes bad. So I believe in getting Western ideas. And through Christianity, we are able to teach the people decent ways of life and different everything. For instance, Mohammedans will not eat with the Christians, which is bad. It doesn't bring peace to the world. But through Christianity, we are able to teach pure love and love for everything.
But
and so more Africans like
haven't
to...
you heard me?
I said, if you of Christianity, there are Orthodox Christians who don't allow to mix with Mohammedans. For example, I belong to a real Orthodox Christian religion known as the Copts. And there it says that its origin, of course, from Judaism also. It says that the animal must be properly slaughtered before you eat it. And if a Mohammedan has already slaughtered a sheep or a cow, for example, I will not eat with him.
I'm sure there are infinite prejudices in your country alone between Amharas and Hebrews and Arabs. You do say your origin is Hebrew, do you not? We could talk for ages on that, but there's another question I want very much to ask all of you. That is, what had you heard about race problems in America before you came? Is our problem greater or less than you?
Did y'all hear the question? Did y'all hear the question? I gotta.
This is 1956.
That was a great question.
Schools were integrated. No, well, I don't.
Was it?
No.
What they were?
Schools were outlawed in 1954. Why they didn't put nobody from the U.S. up there?
You up there right now, bitch? Just see what you gotta say.
Well, no.
See what you gotta say.
Okay, well, I wasn't alive during that time, so I can't.
History tells a lot. History allows you to understand a lot. It feels like you're there sometimes. You
I
know
want
what I'm
to
saying?
hear what they gotta say.
Okay, here she go. One more time, y'all.
On that,
The DJ.
there's another question I want very much to ask all of you. That is, what did you hear
I called her a
about
DJ.
race problems in America before you came? Is our problem greater or less than you thought?
I thought it was greater before I came. I mean, because of the nationalistic feelings in the Gold Coast, everybody is prejudiced against the whites. Because we want to get the best positions in the government. At present, we have it though. But I mean, in the olden days, we wanted to get them. And so we were always constant on the point to listen to some of these things which happen in America. About 70% of the news about America are concerning racial prejudice.
Is that true in the Gold Coast, Dick? How much news, American news,
You mean
is
South
concerned?
Africa?
I'm sorry, in South Africa.
Well, very little. Except the case like the recent Supreme Court case comes up, then that receives attention in the South African newspapers. But we realize what the position is here in the States, and we got a problem much bigger than ours back home.
Was our problem greater than you thought it would be or less?
They said, did he say that America's problems was greater than what they had back home?
Sounds to me, he says that they're facing a bigger problem in America.
I don't agree with that. I feel like, no.
What could have been a problem other than...
No, I don't.
Let's give him a replay. He said it. Let's listen to him.
Receives attention in the South African newspapers, but we realize what the position is here in the States, and we got a problem much bigger than ours back home.
Was our problem greater than you thought it would be or less?
Oh, I think it's bigger than I thought it would be, because well, I imagined when I came over here that all the Negroes were as well educated as the white people, and well, that's not always the case, especially down south. And then I didn't expect to find them as concentrated in the South as they are.
Have any of you had any experiences with segregation here in this country?
Well, I've just got something quite insignificant. You know, people get to know that I'm a foreigner, and so they treat me differently. When I came at first, I tried to get an American haircut, appear in American clothes as best as possible and as much as possible, just for people to discriminate against me. But I've never had such an occasion. I've been trying to get it, but I mean, it seems as if I've been getting the best, actually.
Much friendliness.
Yes, ma'am.
How about you, Navy?
This is rather superficial, but I was living in one of the communities in New Jersey, which is strictly white resident, and there I couldn't get a haircut for about 2 weeks because the white man don't know how to cut this type of hair.
Okay, so he was living in New Jersey. New Jersey is in the northern part of the U.S.
Right.
So the problems existed in our country, but it wasn't as prevalent up there. So he just said that they just didn't know how to cut his type of hair. And let's listen to the rest of what he said. But I just wanted to, give some context to that.
And one of the boys was joking to me that he said that the best engineers in the United States are working hard to design an instrument that will be of some use to cut this hair.
No, that's not discrimination.
Well, it is another sort of discrimination because United States is a business country, and if they discourage their customers by means of types of hair, then they are defeating their own purpose.
I found
that was a little like, if it wasn't invented, probably, I mean it was, but I guess they're saying we just don't know how to, bro, we can't help you out because we don't, none of us ever cut their hair like that.
He was in a white community.
Understood,
That's
and they don't know how to cut their hair, so they just didn't know how to cut his hair.
Yeah, he should have went to the other side of town.
Yeah, take that little ride.
a little bit of segregation, form of segregation at any rate. And that is, while I was speaking to residents in New Jersey, Well, they were teachers, and they told me that although it's officially prohibited by law, there are what they call gentlemen's agreements, whereby a Negro cannot obtain land or buy property in a white man's area. Then, on the other hand, I found that on the whole, the Negroes here are not as economically sound as the white men are. And then too, in the recent case where Negro and white schools have been integrated, the Negro teachers have lost their jobs.
See, let's come to this point. You
Yeah.
said they are not economically sound as the white men. The point is, in America, for instance, if you get much education, you get better pay, better job. If you deny the Negro opportunities to go to college, how do you expect them to get better qualifications,
back
to occupy the
sucker.
better jobs, and get better pay for the houses? That's the point. I'm now getting some of these facts from the papers. I every day read about the problem which is happening down in Alabama, and I see what the...
Hold up. What is man at today? Because he's going hard for South Africa. He is going too hard.
Yeah. I mean, I get where he's coming from. Those like, because he's still talking about the denying excess and having these things, and how can we grow if we are kicking this out every single time?
Yeah. Well, the South African, he was being sympathetic to what whites and blacks are going through in the United States during that time. And so the man was like, hold up, you can't be sympathetic to them. Because what about what's going on in your country?
Out of those things, those are some of the experiences of segregation that I've seen in America now. Obviously, I can take back some of these ideas with me, but they are just insignificant.
Who
As
told
I said at first, I've met with friendliness in America, but in certain aspects too, I see some of these things, you see. That's the point. Think of the education first. I believe in education.
Do you know something? In South Africa, last year we spent $42 million on educating the Bantu there, and 3/4 of that was paid by the white people. 40% of the Bantu school children are going to school. And the literacy rate in the Union of South Africa now amongst the Bantu is 27.7, and within the next 20 years, it'll be 100% literacy.
Why is it that then? Why is it that, then, that you have not got a delegate who is African for the whole year that you have been operating this forum? I'm sure that next year a white man is going to come here as a delegate for the Union of South Africa, though there are 9 million South Africans who are Africans. So don't think of this thing as something like literacy. I know that the literacy rate in South Africa is 16%. But
No,
the 27%. But the point is, the Africans just get the elementary education in the African quarters, which is fit for nothing but unskilled labor.
To sum up a little bit, Nini, what's the best thing your government can do, the most significant thing to help attack this problem?
At present, we are not yet fully self-government. We do everything ourselves in the government. But the last point is defense and external affairs. Great Britain is controlling this. And the moment we become independent, we can prove to the outside world that the African can rule himself and the black can govern itself. And so
What
I
would you
think
say
that's
to your
the only
government,
thing.
Dick?
The government must definitely apply this policy of apartheid more firmly and more thoroughly, and apply it and carry it out more rapidly than it's done in the future.
There's a final question I'd like to ask you.
No.
Since the population of the world, the percentage between white and non-white is roughly what it is here, I'm sure Dix and I are wondering when the 3/4 of the human race that is not white gets political power. What are you going to do to the whites? Segregate them?
Well, if we practice segregation, then we will be as bad as the white.
Right.
So,
That has been the baseline of every conversation when people actually stop and think about slavery, segregation, apartheid. Like, that's the base conversation they want to know. What are y'all gonna do if we do give y'all, or y'all do obtain a power, some such like that? I mean, you can't fight fire with fire, bro. Like, just get a bigger flame.
This is my honest views on race. I am black and proud, right? But I would like world peace.
That's it.
Period. Like, why this is still a prevalent issue.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's not, so much about where we live. Now it's about pay and other things. But I mean, why can't we just live for today? Learn from the mistakes of the past and live for today. That's it.
I think what happened is they just created a ladder to go up. You know what I'm saying?
One person want to be above the other.
Yeah. But they say too many chiefs, not enough Indians.
what we will do is we will allow them to mix with us, and in the meantime unite ourselves like that we did in the Bandung conference.
Well, listen to it. When Mr. Thurgood Marshall, the attorney to Miss Lucy, when he came down from Alabama to New York, this is what he said. He said that sometimes Negro organizations and individual Negroes, through their help to save the white man, so become a little bit tired. So I think probably that's our mission.
To save the white man's soul.
To save the white man's soul.
Thank you, Nene. I'm sorry, that's all the time we have. Thank you all. Next week, we'll continue the discussion.
Yo, that was crazy. It kind of got my little head hurting. But we got through it, y'all.
Yeah. I would love to see where these people are today.
Yeah.
And have them revisit.
You would want that? Well, the experience probably didn't change because life has took a big turn. You know what I'm saying? So. Yeah,
they should be, what, in their 70s, 80s?
I'm about to say 80s.
Around there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This drained.
Y'all done did it.
Yeah, so you have anything to say, babe?
No, I don't.
Okay. I feel like we have spoken throughout. Let us know your thoughts. Positive thoughts. Positive. Let's bring it back. Bring it back. Bring it back. We don't live in 1956, guys. Let's bring it back. All right. We hope you guys enjoyed this video with us. Like this video, subscribe, turn on the post notification bell. We have enabled our super thanks if you like to support the channel that way, as well as our join feature to become a VIP member of the channel. Send in your reaction request through our description box below. We'll see you soon.
Peace.